was meant to be.
Dalton McGuinty's cutting OHIP by over $1 billion. It'll make it harder to find a doctor for my kids. It'll mean fewer tests and procedures for my parents. Some cuts are just irresponsible. It's time for Dalton McGuinty to work with doctors and put patients first.
That is an interesting ad. That is essentially a union giving Dalton McGuinty a taste of the medicine that he and his union buddies gave to Tim Hudak in the last Ontario provincial election. You'll remember that election. Working Families Coalition, which is essentially a front for Liberal attack ads, even though they deny it and the courts say that's not the case. That's essentially what they're doing. They spent millions of dollars in the last election attacking the Ontario Provincial Conservatives and Tim Hudak. Now, Doctors' Union, essentially, is attacking Dalton McGuinty. Is this a taste of McGuinty's own medicine? Will this make him see the light on making unions be more open and accountable? Joining me now to talk more about this is Stephen Taylor. He is with the National Citizens Coalition and a supporter of union openness and accountability. Now, Stephen, let's deal with this off the bat. You guys are supporting the federal attempt. We're mixing federal and provincial politics a bit here, but you guys are backing with a campaign and you're fundraising, you're looking for money for it, to lobby in favor of Bill C-377. That's Russ Hebert's bill that would force unions to say what they spend their political money on. Why?
Well, it's important to have union transparency. In fact, 86% of frontline workers that are in unions actually want this sort of transparency. They give their union dues to the union, and then they find out that the union bosses are spending on pet projects from everywhere from Pride to Israel Apartheid Week, items which aren't even part of a working mandate.
Canadian Auto Workers Union has been spending a lot of money shadowing a pro-life group that's been driving across Canada. The auto workers shadowing a pro-life protest to denounce them just seems odd to me. It's not related to being an auto worker at all, and I'm pretty sure I know some pro-life auto workers.
Sure, and even perhaps more odd, auto workers funding environmental pet projects. They make cars, don't they?
Yeah.
Auto workers, and yet they're funding these projects that want to make it more difficult for Ontario to make vehicles.
All right, so the Building Trades Coalition and the unions in Ontario don't like this. They have launched what I'm told is more than $500,000 lobbying campaign to get this shut down, and they've hired some lobbyists with ties to conservatives. So you guys are trying to counter that by raising some money, and if people want to help that out, they can join at the National Citizens Coalition website.
That's right. They can go to joinncc.ca, and while others might be the voice of big labor, we're the voice of everyday Canadians who say, look, this is like like frontline workers who want to have transparency to see where their their dues are going.
Back to McGuinty. He has bought Labour peace over the last several years by essentially opening up the bank account and giving every contract that's come open, be it teachers, be it doctors, it's been, hey, what do you want? Here's the kitty, take from it. And it's had a horrible impact on our provincial treasury. The debt is through the roof. It is going up by something to the effect of $66 million a day, $733 a minute or something to that effect. Do you think that he's realizing that that would only work as long as times were good, and now he's being attacked by the people he thought were his friends?
Yeah, well, unions are going to do what unions are going to do, right? A leopard's going to have its spots. They're going to behave in their own interests and the interests of the union bosses as a large organization. And one of the things that Tim Hudak actually has proposed, which you brought up, you touched on a little bit before, was this open tendering process. And in fact, because the Ontario debt has actually doubled under Dalton McGuinty, let's put out government contracts to open tenders, so we're not spending like $4,000 to install an electrical socket in a school, like we saw news come up the other week.
Yeah, that was even
in the Toronto School Board.
In the Toronto Star, the Toronto Red Star, let's remember, was highlighting the fact that there was serious abuse in terms of contracting and what people were paying.
That's right. So we need legislation that actually opens it up. And provincially, we're seeing some of the same echoes of what we've been seeing federally, is to open up and make transparent where these union dues are going if they're going to political activities. We see $10 million being spent by the Ontario Working Families Coalition during the last election to crush the provincial Progressive Conservative campaign under Tim Hudak. So, of course, we're going to see Tim Hudak, of course, suggest that we counter that effort and make it more transparent, of course, in his interest, but, of course, in the interest of the frontline workers as well. So,
yeah, but of course the guy that ran his campaign in the last election is out there running the lobbying company that is trying to stop openness and transparency for unions. So he was obviously bought out. Thankfully, Hudak's not.
And here we are on the other side of that campaign, lobbying for openness and transparency.
All right. So I don't think that I think that workers just want to know where the money's going so that they can question, because some campaigns they might support, and I would say that this one from the Ontario Medical Association is one that doctors would support because it's actually related to their workplace.
It's directly to their interest.
Most are not related. Most of what the political money goes to is not directly related to their workplace. Do you think Dalton McGuinty is going to cave in on this one now that his friends are turning on him?
Well, Dalton McGuinty has two pressures, of course. Not having this province go down the path of Greece, on one hand, and, of course, on the other hand, keeping peace with his base and his allies. Perhaps it's time for new blood and new ideas to come to the legislature in Ontario.
Yeah, but that'll mean that Dalton McGuinty runs for the federal Liberals here in Ottawa. So
well, he'll have a tough time against Justin.
All right. Stephen Taylor with the National Citizens Coalition. Thank you very much. Check out the blog, lillyspad.ca. We're always trying to make sure there's